Hey guys, how are we all doing today?
Good.
Splendid. How you doing?
You hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
All right.
We're,
Loud and
we're all
clear.
coming out loud and clear.
That's good.
Gary looks like he's back from vacation.
Yeah, it looks nice and
I,
brown.
I am indeed. It's a nice golden brown, rather than lobster red.
Well, the reaction to Fix Your Eyes Up obviously has been quite positive, quite excited, probably more than we really expected. And climbing up the Heritage chart. BP, you've been in the charts with X-Ray Specs, with Classix. What do you think about being back in the charts this late in life?
Yeah, it's actually nice, really cool. I'm actually proud. I didn't really hear about the heritage thing over here, but I've been following it, and it's great. It's like overwhelming, to be honest. You know what I mean? 40
Mm.
years.
Yeah.
I feel the same. I'd not heard of this heritage charts before, but it is amazing, really. We're back in any kind of charts, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I think, a good shout out is necessary to Mike Reed because obviously it's a great idea to be able to show the bands that everybody used to love in their youth. And, he's always been one of the leading figures in British music as long as we've been around. And so if you're watching, Mike, great job.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done. So we're going to try and answer some of the questions from the fans that they've been asking. So what do we have up first?
One thing is they keep asking when the album is coming out.
Well, as far as the album's concerned, we're working hard as we can on it. We're spending our time. Just really want to get the best we possibly can. It's been so long since 40 odd years since we have recorded anything together. I'm sure we all want to make sure it's the best we could possibly do. So there's not really a definitive answer to that one, but I'll just say as soon as we're happy with it and as soon as we can.
I think we've generally been aiming for the end of the year, but it's possible it might take longer than that because
Yeah,
it's
I was definitely thinking towards the end of the year, not forever, but at the same time, don't want to rush it, do we?
Absolutely.
well, I think that really we're giving every single song all of our attention, like one at a time. And that's something that I learned way back when we were, recording our early albums, that people in the public might be surprised how long it takes, how long you spend on one song. Because every time you see it on TV, everybody's in the studio, they're performing like live, and they don't understand every little detail, every little mix, it has the attention of everybody. I think Thriller, Michael Jackson took 2 years, didn't it, or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, I hope
Actually,
it won't be
what
that
I
long.
like about it is what we're doing. Because we haven't got a record company saying you got to do this, you got to go in the studio, you got to do demos, you got to go on tour, do this. We're taking our time, and I think it's sounding amazing, sounds better. That's
The other aspect to it is obviously, we're in different countries and there's the technical side as well. So, we haven't got a producer, we're doing our own bits. Well, we have got a producer in Sal, but we've got to do our own bits, send it to Sal, and then he works his magic. So, that takes a bit longer as well, just dealing with transferring stuff over.
I think it's a good point about back in the day when we used to have the record company, budgets were a big issue. And so therefore studio time was so darn expensive. So it's really amazing all these years later that technology means that every one of us can do our own thing with our own computer. And it sounds better than when we used to record in Abbey Road, really, doesn't it?
I know it's remarkable, isn't it, how we've moved on.
Hey Gary, what do you think it sounds like?
Personally, I'm absolutely over the moon. I would have never believed it would come out as good as it has. Not only are we obviously, well, hopefully we are better as musicians. Well, we are better as musicians, and no doubt about that. Sal's production skills.
Yeah.
I honestly am very impressed. I didn't realise how good you were at doing that.
Thank you.
So with our playing abilities, writing abilities, everything. It's Classix Nouveaux today, isn't it? Amazing.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, every track is still got that classic sound, but it's, I mean, I think they're going to be pretty amazed with it. The sound, heavy stuff, it's got the electro pop stuff in it, and I'm not out by it. Even like my friends now, probably your friends, are all older, 50 years old. I play them saying, what do you think of this?
What I like about it is it's not, you know, it's moved on. You know, we're not trying to reproduce our old 80s sound. We're just doing what comes out naturally.
Yeah.
How
People I play it to, like I said, 60 years old, are like, oh wow, that sounds great. I can't believe that. Really? That's you, you know?
Well, don't play it to too many people because the fans will be jealous. Like, why can't they hear it?
I have to get an idea as well of certain things as well.
I know what you mean,
There are ideas in it, you know, but they're not, you know, they're just normal friends of mine, you know.
You want feedback, don't you? You want to know you're on the right track. But it's just organically just developed. We didn't really know how this was going to work out when we started off on this project. And yeah, obviously we're all very pleased about it.
Hey, what happened to Mick, by the way? Sorry.
Well, I sent an invitation to him and he just didn't show. So there you go. But I think in the conversation, you know, it strikes me what a difference 40 years makes. You know, that a lot of people, some bands who have just continued doing it all the time might have lost their luster. And some bands try and reproduce what they were doing when they were young. Like I've seen some clips of Twisted Sister, nothing against them, but they're still trying to be as they were 40 years ago or 50 years ago. And we've made a decision that we're not going to try and be who we were then. We're going to be who we are today and do what we can do in the light of our own improved skills and obviously what the technology allows. And I know for some people, probably not a lot, but there's been a few people commenting who have a hard time with it sounding so different, especially my singing. And I think what they don't realize is that the two first Classix albums, 1981, 82, that's how I was singing then. But that was, you know, I've been singing for almost 50 years. And so it was only at that time that I was singing that particular way, because already by the third album, Secret, I'd already stopped the growling and screaming at that point. When I had a hit with San Damiano in 1985, obviously I was not screaming and growling anymore. And so over the years, I've developed a much more mellow kind of style of singing. And so people, it may come as a shock in the same way that if you saw somebody when they're 20 years old, then you see them when they're 50, you're going to be shocked, like, that's changed, that doesn't look like the same person. But sometimes we don't sound quite like the same person as well. And I think people are reaching around to say, oh, it must be auto-tune or it must be filters or something that make my voice like that, as though what they're familiar with was my original voice. If I tried to sing now, like I used to sing on those albums, it would be fake. Because that ain't who I am today.
Exactly. We're doing what we want to do now. You know?
Yeah, and it's just developing organically, isn't it? And that's the best thing.
I want to put you both on the spot, actually all three of us really, and say, okay, the titles won't mean anything to the fans yet, but I want you to choose right now your one favourite song from our new album. Gary, you can start.
Well, that's a difficult one because, I mean, I'd like to make, I can't really make that decision until we finish.
That's a good answer.
That's what we're good.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, there's a bunch of them I like, but Sympathy.
Final Symphony.
I think Final Symphony is probably that would edge it for me as well. I suppose because I get a heavy guitar solo. Not only that, it does rock out, doesn't it?
I would say the same thing actually. Right now, I mean, I'm kind of drifting towards some others like Wretched that I'm really into right now.
I was just going to say that one song, Wretched, was hard for me, as you know. completely different. But I heard what he did to it after he put all our ideas in last night. He sent me it, and I got to say, I played it like 6 times this morning, and that completely changed again. That's the thing what we're doing. Everything keeps changing and getting better. So I think it's amazing. I love it, and I love the vocal. I don't know if Gary's heard it yet.
Oh yeah, Gary's got it as well. But when I sent you another song that we like, "Color Me the Sky," and BP says that's my best vocal recorded ever. So for all you folks that don't like the way I'm singing now, maybe you will when you hear that. Let's give everybody a tiny little teaser of Final Symphony. We don't want to give the game away too much. No, we don't want to give the game away too much before it's finished. But here's a little teaser. Really looking forward to the fans hearing that. I'd like to see their faces because I think it's going to be such a shock. It's so different to back in the day, because one of the things with our period in the 80s was it was a period, of course, where synths were in and guitars were out. So we were constantly kind of limiting the guitar and trying to make things more robotic. But now guitars have stood the test of time, really, haven't they?
Lucky for me, hey.
Yeah, that's right. Finally,
good job, Gary, as well.
Yeah. Finally, you get to come into your own, so we're all happy about that.
Yeah, I'm very pleased about that.
What's the people want to know? What's the process? How are we doing this? How are we putting it together?
Shall I go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I suppose you're sending over the sort of the rough idea you've got of your song with your lyrics. And a sort of basic structure, then I do my best to come up with various guitar parts, obviously enhance that and improve it and make it more interesting. Sometimes they come quickly for me, sometimes not. It's a strange thing, isn't it, the writing process? Quite often I will listen to the ideas you sent over, and for some strange reason, it will remind me of something else. It might not to somebody else, it would sound nothing like that. That would kind of give me inspiration, what I'm looking for. I quite often do that. Then I would come up with an idea, being inspired by something in my subconscious. And again, it probably sound nothing like what I'm thinking of, but it's just that's the way it works for me. And sometimes I just mess around for ages till I get something that I like. And then when I put those ideas together, I send them back to you and juggle them all around, throw out all the stuff you don't like, and hopefully there's something in there you do.
Well, I think in a way it's a bit like how the Beatles put stuff together, because they were influenced by all kinds of things. Like they loved Motown and black soul music. And when they did it, it never sounded like whatever they intended, but they came up with something more original, didn't they, So BP was down, because we both live in America, so BP was down to my studio to record the drums, and they sound fantastic, don't they?
Yeah, I'm real pleased with that. Well, one, it was great to see you after all these years, and you haven't changed, obviously. Yeah, no, it was fun going down there. It only took us backing tracks a week? No. 5 days, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things I really like about it is that I always say to people, BP is such a powerful drummer, and people who never saw us live, they say they don't get that from the records, because obviously on the records it was more electronic and more robotic and all that kind of thing. And whereas at the concerts, it was always so powerful. So I think this is really the first time we've ever had a recording where it really shows your sound, how you really play.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with it. Yeah, no, it sounds big. Sounds real big.
I think it sounds better than ever, BP, and that's, I really mean that. I'm not just saying that. And it's quite amazing, really, isn't it? Because as far as I understand, I mean, you haven't really played that much, have you?
No, I haven't played since 93, on and off, 93, 94. Actually, I bought that drum kit just to do these sessions because I was so my dream come true to do something again and win so hard.
But I think what's interesting is you've really been a fan of music throughout. You've been absorbing everything that's out there.
Oh,
And and so to me, that's fascinating that a lot of ideas come out that even the way people describe Fix Your Eyes Up, people are saying you can recognize the 80s thing, but it sounds like today. And so that kind of mixture of very modern things and kind of things from our era is kind of good. I want to hit you guys, we're coming towards the end now, but I want to hit you guys with another unexpected question because I saw somebody else online, some other old farts like us, talking about their influences. So I want each of you to describe your one biggest influence, okay? And I'll do it as well. And so
do you mean now or ever?
Ever, like in your life, your biggest musical influence, who would that be?
Oh God, Sal, that's so hard. But do you know what? I have to say, because they're the best band I've seen live, I think they're great songwriters. You know who I'm going to say next? Tears for Fears.
Well, you worked with them like over a tour or something, right?
I learned a lot from them. Actually, I worked with a couple of bands, and I learned more about drumming than I did. Because you got to remember, when I was 17 joining X-Ray Specs, I only just started to hit the kick drum when I first joined them. It was just bang, bang, bang. I was in a band on top of the pop doing tours. And then Classix Nouveaux, I learned a lot more there. But I was never taught or anything, so it was weird. So I actually play better now than I did. My timing is still a little.
Well, no, I think people are going to love it. People are going to be very surprised because you told me your favorite drummer is John Bonham, and I didn't know that, but I can hear that now.
Oh yeah,
especially in our heavier songs. Gary, before we run out of time, come on, spill the beans.
Yeah, that's putting on the spot, isn't it? Well, I don't think people would really believe this, but what first inspired me to pick up the guitar, apart from the fact I thought it was a good way to maybe attract the opposite sex, was Jimi Hendrix. I just thought he was a total innovator. I've never heard anything like it in my life, what he could do.
Hey, hang on. Sorry. The question you asked me, I said Tears for Fears, but I've just got it now. The reason why I started drums was because of John Bonham. What I should have said in my band that I listened to and influenced me all the time for this and that was Tears for Fears. Sorry, Gary.
Well, but I think what you're both sharing is important because my first live concert ever was Led Zeppelin at the Royal Albert Hall. And Jimi Hendrix, I think that I've never seen him live, but I think that younger people today might not realize how much he changed everything. Like, because he died so long ago and so young, people always go on about Eric Clapton or Jeff Beck or something, but really it was Hendrix who inspired all of them to bring electric guitar forward. We might run out of time soon, so I'm just going to jump in and say my all-time, biggest influence would have to be the Beatles, and especially the psychedelic era, because as you were talking about the production of our stuff, I remember as a young kid, like with, I'm going to say headphones, but it might have only been one headphone at that time, and stuff was in mono, and hearing things like I'm the Walrus, and all the layers, and all the different instruments, and the voices coming in. And so that's always been to me like the pinnacle of music. And again, obviously the Beatles are still very revered today still, but for younger people, I'm not sure they appreciate again how there could never be another band, no matter who they are, that have as much influence as the Beatles had on all of us, although we came much later. And so that's the influence department.
Hey, I think I know, I might be wrong, who your favourite singer is.
Oh.
Janis Joplin?
You're right, actually. Yeah, that was why I used to do all the growling and screaming, because I didn't have the soul like she had, or the blues. So,
I asked you that question the first time we got together. Well, you were conditioned for X-Ray Specs. I remember all of that time.
Well, amazing. I mean, I remember BP liked my music the very first day we met and still does today. So that's a nice place to end, guys, before Zoom cuts us off. So we'll talk again soon, all right?
Fix your eyes up on the prize. Fix your eyes up. Fix your eyes up. Fix your eyes up on the prize. Fix your eyes up. Fix your eyes up on the prize. Fix your eyes up. Fix your eyes up. Fix your eyes up.